Welcome to Talking Giants player profiles and projections. And as we wind down our second to last episode, the running back, the 2018 second overall pick. Some people cringe when they hear that. Saquon Barkley, 5'11", 233 pounds, 24 years old. Well, we all know the story of Saquon. He tore his ACL week 2 versus Chicago. Missed the season. They're easing him back. But I do think he's going to be ready for week 1, Justin. And here's what I'll say about Saquon before we dive into the numbers and all that fun stuff. He is a game-changing player. You can make all your arguments about running backs and where he was slotted, and they are 100% fair. But what isn't fair is to say that Saquon isn't on another level and doesn't add wins. Now, the Giants as a whole haven't won a lot of games, but to say Saquon doesn't add wins is not fair, and it's not true because I can point to those games. Chicago is rookie year, Washington is second year. Now, did they win as a whole? No. And if you disagree with the draft pick, I will not tell you you're wrong. In fact, I kind of disagree with it too. I do disagree with it. But Saquon is a game-changing player, and he didn't get 2,000 yards from scrimmage his rookie year and 1,500 his second year on only 13 games on accident when we haven't had any other running backs touch that.
Yeah, everybody knows where I stand on the whole draft thing, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Saquon Barkley in terms of his career so far, and how good of a player he is, and then also what he can do for this football team heading into 2021. Bobby, we talk about explosive plays all the time, and let's start it with this. Overall in 2019, the Giants' rushing offense was the 7th most explosive rushing offense in the National Football League, and that's without Daniel Jones, even including his legs there too. I feel like Pat Shermer never really fully unlocked that. And it was Jason Garrett who kind of unlocked it a little bit more towards the second half, middle part of last year. And overall in 2020, even with Daniel Jones's kind of explosive legs, but that was the most explosive part of our offense, the run game in 2020, it was the 17th most explosive rushing offense in the National Football League of runs of 10-plus yards. So that's
and
a whole...
think of those, on a 20, maybe not 10%, but the 20-plus yards. Think of the 20-plus yards. You had a couple Wayne Gallman ones versus Seattle, maybe an Alfred Morris one versus Washington. The rest were Daniel Jones, big runs.
I did a spreadsheet throughout this entire year, and it was, I think for the first 8 weeks of the season, every single rushing play that was 20-plus yards was Daniel Jones, excluding one. I think there was one Wayne Gallman 20-plus run against the Los Angeles Rams. So he brings that explosivity to this offense, and that is what this offense is just dying for, and it's thirsting for. It is explosive plays. It was dying and thirsting for it throughout this entire preseason. If you want even just a refresher of how difficult it is to just sustain 10, 11, 12 play drives in the NFL, because somebody is bound to mess up. Somebody is bound to get a holding call, drop a pass, et cetera, et cetera. So take a sack. The Giants offensive line isn't that good. And I think the stat that kind of describes how bad this offensive line was to start this year, the 2020 season that is, Saquon Barkley averaged minus 0.1 yards before contact on on average of his 19 carries in the 2020 season. That is terrible. So you're not even allowing this guy a slither of a millisecond, to succeed as a running back. I know the running back position is reliant on how good of an offensive lineman you have, but that is just not even giving this guy a chance. So combine the fact that he's going to bring that explosive element, combine the fact that this Giants rushing offense should be better, and also combine the fact that they should get him more involved in receiving game. Hopefully we see a Saquon Barkley that is explosive, ready to rock and roll this year, and can be really productive for this Giants offense.
And you make a good point. I want to talk about his rushing stats. In 2019, he had 217 carries for 1,003 yards, 6 touchdowns. That's on 13 games on a bum ankle. He had over 1,000 yards. And then, he added 438 receiving yards in that game, 6 touchdowns, 2 receiving, eight touchdowns. The Giants running backs didn't touch that in 2020, and we think they have a better run blocking offensive line. But that's what I want to get to. His rookie year, he had 2,000 yards from scrimmage, 1,300 yards on the ground, 5 yards per carry, and with a bad offensive line, bad offensive line play. And that reason brings me to my point about how, that's why, a lot of people don't believe in taking running back twos. They are very reliant on the offensive line. But with Saquon, a critique has been he needs to hit the hole better. He needs to hit the hole better. But here's what I don't want. I don't want Saquon turning into Wayne Gallman, where it's I'm just going to get my 3-4 yards every time. The offensive line, the run blocking from this offensive line should be the best that he's had of his career. It should be. Matt Parrott should be an upgrade. Will Hernandez, Nick Gates, Shane Lemieux, Andrew Thomas. It should be an upgrade run blocking wise. I don't know about pass blocking wise, but run blocking wise, it should be. That makes it easier for him to hit the hole. So I want him to have those type of runs, but I also never want to take away what makes Saquon, and that is 60, 70-yard runs. Now, do you go into a run play and be like, okay, this is going to be a 60, 70-yard run or a big play run? No, it happens naturally. Like, a passing game, like 4 verts. It's like, okay, this is a play designed to get downfield, or a max protect 2-man Yankee route or something. Like, those are passing plays where it's like, we're going to attack this play and get a big play out of it. So you can't do that with the running back where it's like, okay, we expect a big play out of this. But I never want to take away him wanting to bounce a play. Should he get better at hitting the hole and picking and choosing? Absolutely. That gets better with time. But I never want this idea of like, oh, he just needs to get 3 or 4 yards every carry. Screw that. That's not how he's going to add what he is. I know people have their opinions on the pick and him, but that is not who Saquon is. I never want him to be the guy who takes, where we go, man, that play could have been a big play, but he didn't bounce it or whatever.
And a metric I really like to look at is rushing yards over expected. That's a next-gen stats, player tracking data, and it's based off of how many guys are in the box, what formation, what personnel you're in, down distance, how fast you get the ball, et cetera, how much time you spend behind the line of scrimmage. So they're able to track, based off of the player tracking data, what a running back is expected to get on a certain running play. And then if a running back is able to get a 40-yard gain when he was only expected to get 2 yards because of how many guys were in the box and where everybody kind of started when the play, when the ball was snapped, then that's like a plus 38. That's a plus 38 for that certain play. So that's how that metric works. And even when I was critical of Saquon in 2019 of not taking what was directly in front of him, he was still one of the top 10 running backs in the National Football League in rushing yards over expected. And that's that's not necessarily a metric that says these are the running backs that are best in the National Football League, but that is still a metric that you want to be around the vicinity of being one of the best in the league, because it says that you're efficient. It says that you are providing individual effort that is above what your offensive linemen are giving you. And that's what we're expecting Saquon Barkley to be. We are expecting Saquon Barkley to sometimes make something out of nothing. Even when the offensive line is absolutely terrible and even when there's nothing there, we are expecting him to break a run. We are expecting him to get yards after contact, and he has the pedigree of doing that. And he did it even in 2019, even on a bum ankle, and even where you kind of watched him, and for the majority of the year, at least the middle part and where he was injured, take away the first few weeks and the last few weeks of the season, you watched him and you weren't that impressed, but he was still one of the league's best running backs.
Let's talk about him as a receiver real quickly. Now, this doesn't need to be some long conversation. He's had, in 2 years, he's had 143 catches and almost 1,200 yards. I'm not counting last year. But even in last year, he had the best receiving game from a running back, and this will be the last time I repeat that fact. I just feel like I've said it 20 times this offseason. So we're coming up on new games, and I won't be repeating that fact anymore. But he did have the best receiving game as a running back, and he only played 1 game, essentially. That being said, you should still use him creatively. Like, not just, check down, swing downs. And Pat Shurmur did it a little bit, but maybe not enough. Part of that was Daniel Jones not being someone who really got back down to the running back for his check downs a ton. But with that, use him in his strength. Like, put him on angle routes in the middle. Put him on wheel routes. And you know what? He would have had like a 60-yard wheel route touchdown versus the Bears if he didn't drop it. But like those type of plays are like, use him differently. And I'm going to talk about it in this when we talk about blocking in a second. Put him out wide too. Like, why not? Like, why would you not? Like, hey, one play, we swap Kadarius Toney and Saquon Barkley. We put Kadarius Toney in the backfield and Saquon Barkley in the slot. Like, why not do that type of stuff to give him space and be able to make a play without having to face a 7-8 man box?
Yeah, I kind of hate how it's very predictable once a running back goes out as a receiver in this Jason Garrett offense. Even when Deion Lewis was on the team, and Deion Lewis legit had reps when he was with other teams as a wide receiver, so don't give me the whole personnel argument. It would be so predictable that when a running back would line up as a receiver before the formation, Daniel Jones would call him in, and I don't even count that as pre-snap motion if you know that it's coming. So The whole thing about Saquon Barkley as a receiver, I like to look at average depth of target, especially for some running backs. It doesn't really differentiate between a lot of running backs because, let's face it, the majority of running back catches are going to be like check down options. And that's not a bad thing because you want those guys to get the yards after the catch and the missed tackles, etc., etc. So Saquon Barkley's average depth of target as a receiver in 2018, it was 0.1 of a yard. That's about, I would say, kind of normal, right? That's Eli being Mr. Checkdown too. 2019, it went up to 0.8. So again, you're starting to use them a little bit more creatively. We all remember, the plays that happened in Detroit. We all remember the plays that happened in that away Washington game. Alvin Kamara, who I think is the best running back in the NFL, at least in my opinion, at least as a receiver, and being used in versatile multiple ways, his average depth of target in 2018 when he had a bananas year was 1.8 yards. So to put it in retrospect, you're never going to see Saquon Barkley average, his average depth of target being 5 yards. That's never going to be the case. But Alvin Kamara getting 1.8 in 2018, that was insane. So I'm hoping that Saquon Barkley's average depth of target is around 1 yard this year. Mixed in the dump offs, mix off, because that's even what Daniel Jones needs to get better too. We saw it in the preseason game on a play where he took a sack. He should have dumped it off to a running back. So Daniel Jones should get better at checking it down to the running back. Let your guys try to make a play for you even when nothing's there, and then also mix in those angle route, the Texas routes, and the stuff that you see and you can't beat in Madden, and like we saw in New England during those joint practices too.
Yeah, so I want to talk about his blocking, but first, Justin, today's PPP is sponsored by our friends at Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. It's back to school time. We want to make sure you pack the essentials to have the best year yet. The Manscaped 4th Generation Performance Package is just that. Things are opening up. Be ready for whatever in the daily schedule for you. It's the perfect package for your package and includes the brand new Lawnmower 4.0. I use it all the time. It's real deal. Fellas, go for the valedictorian of ball trimming and join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com with the code GIANTS. By the way, in Florida, kids are back to school. This 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. It also allows you to shave your pencil down and custom it. You don't want to shave your pencil down, but customize your trim, like shave the trimmings around it. Has a 7,000 RPM motor, a 4,000K LED light that's waterproof. You can use in the shower. I mean, it's real deal. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code GIANTS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code GIANTS at manscaped.com. This year, graduate with a degree in clean balls from Manscaped. All right, here's what I want to say about his blocking. It's not good. Here's an idea. How about we just don't use Saquon as a blocker a lot? Like, why not on 3rd and 8? Line him up at wide receiver because he's more of a threat than most of the guys they're going to put out there. Like, what are you more afraid of on 3rd and 8? Saquon lining up in the backfield and being used as a check down, or blocking versus blitz? Or you line him out wide, you either go 5 wide, or you put Elijah Penny in the backfield, and it's like, why use him a ton as a blocker? If it's not, like, he's never going to be a great blocker. Why use him that way?
I feel like the last time that we did that was Houston his rookie year, and didn't we win that game?
Yes.
That was a big play, and we won that game. So I feel like the last time we did that was Houston his rookie year, where you're right. I don't really think you're going to put a cornerback on Saquon, but the challenge becomes, all right, if he flanks out as wide receiver, you're going to put a safety, you're going to put a linebacker on him. What are you going to do, and how is that guy going to keep up with them? So that's a great point. It's kind of self-explanatory.
All right, anything else on Saquon Barkley? Do you expect him to play week 1?
Yes, I expect him to play week 1. He's not going to get the same workload that I think everybody wants him to necessarily.
10 carries. Do you think he'll get 10 carries?
No, I don't think 10 carries. I think the Giants are going to be throwing the ball a lot.
Yeah. I think they're really going to take it easy with him. I'm going to say it's going to be at like 8 or 9.
Yep.
Maybe they'll use him as a receiver a little bit, but we'll see.
Even if the Giants are at a point where we're winning the game and we're kind of running the clock out, I think that's where Booker, if they're going to feed somebody, they're going to feed Devontae Booker. It's more important to have Saquon Barkley for week 18, right? No, week 19, right? Or they're 19 weeks
Week 18.
Week 18, weeks of whatever. How many weeks there are in the
Technically,
season?
week 23. We need him for the Super Bowl.
There you go. It's more important to have him in those weeks than it is week 1. So be patient with Saquon Barkley. stay efficient, get more efficient, but also keep that explosive play element part of you. I think that is a fair expectation. In a way, I hope the Giants actually throw the ball more in quarters 1 through 3 and on early downs, because I think that will help Saquon Barkley be more efficient. I think that will help him be more explosive, where if you're throwing the ball more, then guess what? Just target him more. Why not, right? I think if the Giants focus and prioritize throwing the ball a little bit more this year, it will make Saquon Barkley more efficient, even though maybe he's not getting the volume that he did in 2018, but it will help him be more efficient. Then overall, it helped the team even more.
No doubt. All right, we appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time. Until then, let's go Big Blue. All right, let's take a break.